here, you can hear me, right? Sorry about the delay, a little technical difficulty tonight. We'll make sure we have that fixed for the next meeting. Thank you, Deirdre, for getting that. We'll start at 7:12 tonight, a little bit late, and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. So, rise. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. Tonight, I'd also like to have a moment of silence for Chris Carangelo, who passed away last week. She's been a paraprofessional in the school district for over 25 years. And we'd like to offer our sincere condolences to her family and his family. Thank you. Before we get into that, I know next is chair select order of business. I don't have any differences in the business tonight. Before we get started, I just wanted to put out a heartfelt thank you to not only Brian, but the administrators, the teachers, and the entire staff in the Hartford school system for dealing with COVID. Now it's been 2 years of COVID, and it changes constantly. And I know so many people are putting in so much extra time to make sure that children are protected, to make sure that things go smoothly, and to make sure that we can still be in the schools. And I think we don't save enough just all those efforts that people you all are going through, and the staff, and really the frontline workers during this difficult time. And we need to say thank you more, because we see it every day, emails, everything we do with the school. So I just personally say thank you to all the staff.
Carl, who was on Zoom?
We have just with you, Tom and I.
Okay,
You might.
thank you.
All right, moving along. Yes, Linda sent it to him. Actually, I might text him just to make sure. That's a good point. Moving along, Brian, the superintendent report, please.
Thank you, Carl. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Carl, for those kind words. We really appreciate it on behalf of the staff. So I'm very pleased to present the 2022-2023 assumptions and priorities for next year. Just a little background as far as the timeline moving forward. So at the next Board of Education meeting in February, I'll present the budget for next year. And I'll go over that line by line. And I know Carl will talk about the budget timeline a little later in the meeting. And then the second Board of Education meeting in February, I'll answer any questions that you might have with the budget, as far as more in-depth questions as far as that's concerned. So the first line here, as far as the assumptions, state and federal financial support of education may not increase. The biggest support that the state does give each school district in the state, including New Hartford, is the education cost sharing grant. It's a little over $2 million. That will not change this year. That goes directly to the town to help offset education costs in every town, including New Hartford. District enrollment. I'll go over the district enrollment next board meeting very specifically. We're looking, it's going to decrease a little bit, and that's projected to increase the year after. So once again, I'll go over that. I would like to say that over the last few months, we've had an infusion of many students, and I'll go over that next board meeting as well. So that's been a pleasant surprise over the last 2 months or so. Special education costs, which has been a big driver, specifically outplacement students, can be very costly. As the board knows, we're mandated to provide those costs. And even though a student is not educated in our district, we still pay for those costs when they go outside the district as far as those special education needs. The next line item, the Board of Ed is committed to maintaining programs to meet the needs of New Hartford students and community, and will be adjusted. Once again, we'll continue to review each line item to ensure we're meeting the needs of all students. That is our commitment, and we'll continue to do that every single year. Next bullet point, as far as staffing. So we have 4 sections of 6th graders this year, and for those sections will be matriculating, going on to middle school. It's very difficult to predict kindergarten enrollment, as the board knows, but the metrics that we do use, looks like we're going to have 3 sections of kindergarten classes next year. Once again, that could always change. We look at how many births there were 5 years ago in New Hartford. That does not include as far as families moving in. It's always a little bit more, 7 or 8 kids more than how many birth certificates we have 5 years ago. But with that, with the 4 sections, 6th grade leaving and 3 sections coming in as projected, that's a reduction of one teacher in the budget for next year. And once again, we'll continue to monitor the kindergarten enrollment all the way through the summer. There is an increase as far as proposed with our health teacher in the primary schools. We're looking at health teacher is part-time right now. That health teacher works 3.5 days, so we're going to add a half day per week for that. It's going to help with social emotional learning in our curriculum in the primary schools. So that's the only increase as far as staffing for next year. Provide appropriate staffing for curriculum delivery and programming. We are not cutting any programming. We've been very strong in this area over the last several years, providing educational opportunities, always adding and increasing programs for our kids. So we're not eliminating any programs for next year.
Brian, I'm sorry.
Sure.
The health teacher, you said that covered the whole district.
No, that's just for the primary schools, Bakerville and New Hartford Elementary. Yep. Purchase services and supply accounts will be adjusted based on documented prices and trends. We'll always look for the biggest bang for our buck as far as all our accounts, and we'll continue to do that. The next bullet item, as far as increased responsibilities on the district that are either underfunded or not funded as a result, that's always the situation with the state. They are always adding mandates, and a lot of times they do not support those financially and puts a strain on the district. So we know that will continue. Last bullet point on this page, as far as being collaborative with Region 7 and the rest of the school districts there, specifically in fuel oil and health insurance, professional development, and supplies. That does save us a considerable amount of money with that. The next page, salary accounts will increase due to negotiated employee contracts. As the board knows, a few months ago, the board did approve the administrator contract. That is an increase there, and that will be reflected in the budget as well. Next year coming up, we do have the teachers, which will be going through negotiations next fall. And as we know, this past year, we had our 3 non-certified unions, those contracts approved as far as the secretaries, custodians, and tutors. That will be reflected in the budget as well. Individual health insurance costs will increase due to contracted costs with Anthem. So we have our health insurance right now, so it's about 6% increase for next year. That's reflected in the budget, but that's where we are right now. And I talked about a consortium. We're with Region 7, Thomaston, Winchester, and the more school districts you have in that health insurance consortium, it helps minimize or diminish the health insurance increase. So that's worked very well over the last several years. Continue to fund the Resilience Inclusion Student Center Excellence Program. That's over at New Hartford Elementary School. I talked about it's very costly as far as students who are outplaced outside the district. This program has saved the district hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last several years to have this program in-house in our district, working with our kids. And our kids have made great progress in this program. We also, this is probably 5 or 6 years now, the New Hartford Board of Education was asked to include this in our budget. This wasn't the case prior to that. As far as correct magnet school students, We pay $4,600 on average for these students. It's part of the school choice program in the state of Connecticut. These students are not educated in the Hartford Public Schools. They're out in the greater Hartford area. We pay that once again to $4,600. We have 17 students who participate and budgeted for next year. That number really hasn't changed in the last several years. Major initiatives for technology and renovations we budgeted for in the capital budget. Next board meeting, I'll present the capital plan. The capital subcommittee's done a great job over the last several years. I'll be reaching out to that committee to meet hopefully next week to go over the projections as far as proposals for next year. We've tried to do a really good job as far as keeping up with the maintenance. And once again, thank you to that capital subcommittee. It's been a tremendous help in keeping our buildings clean, safe over the last several years. Major initiatives for technology, as I mentioned in this bullet point, part of the capital plan will be Chromebooks, our one-to-one device, which were really ahead of the game several years ago. Now every student in the district has a Chromebook. 5 years pretty much is the end of life as far as those Chromebooks. So every year we're replenishing that. We'll continue to do that in our budget. We're also looking to purchase Promethean boards. That's the next phase. They're smart boards. And almost every classroom will have these Promethean boards for next year. So we're very proud of that. It's really revolutionized teaching. The kids love it. The teachers love it. It really amplifies good teaching. So we're very proud of that. That'll be part of the capital plan as well. Pupil transportation costs, which was very significant. As you know, we went out to bid. We are just completing our first year with DADCO. So we have 3 more years and we're aligned with Region 7 and that. So we're happy about that as far as that's concerned. But that is a significant driver in the budget as well. Extended school year program, that's our summer school program that was moved from Region 7, Northwestern High School, Middle School down to here in-house. That has saved some money. And it's good to educate our students here in New Hartford in the summer. And that'll continue this summer. Continue to support Oak Hill program. The board last May did approve a 3-year lease, so that'll continue. It's a wonderful environment here in New Hartford as far as Antolini School with Antolini students and Oak Hill students, and it's a great marriage, and we love our partnership with Oak Hill. That lease money does go directly to the town of New Hartford, not to the New Hartford Public Schools. Any questions as far as the assumptions are concerned?
The Promethean boards,
Sure.
do all the teachers have them now? All the classroom teachers?
So right now, we have about 3/4 or 80% of all teachers in the entire district have a Promethean board, and we're looking to purchase additional ones through our capital plan.
Will that include the teachers, not the classroom teachers, but the
Special areas, no, just the
special
classroom,
teachers
just the
like
classroom. teachers.
Art and library?
No.
and-
Well, the library does have them, but just the classroom teachers is
Okay.
the plan. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brian, how are we doing on Chromebooks? Are we have a need for more or?
We do. So we'll buy additional Chromebooks for next year because a lot of them are end of life there, and we'll continue that year, several years after that.
Have we replaced all the ones that were in the Chrome carts, or are we still using those?
We're still using some of those. Yeah.
Those must be
They're
at
close.
the,
They're
at the
close.
end?
Yeah, they're close. Yes.
Do we get any reimbursement, or are they reusable somewhere?
So some of the parts are. Yeah.
Brian, I've got a few questions here.
Sure.
But, I don't look for answers tonight, but I would hope that you could bring them next time when you bring through that. But when you talk about reduction of one teacher, right?
Mhm.
We talk about birth certificates 5 years ago. Times have changed. There's been a lot of different, as you said, an influx of students now. Market's crazy. Are there other indicators we should be looking at, right, to be able to project what we're going to get for next year?
Yeah. So it's a great question, Tim. So the last few years, we've looked at that data, and it's been about 8 or 9 kids above the birth certificates 5 years ago. So those 2 are the main metrics.
Mhm.
As far as any other metrics, it'd be difficult to look anywhere else. But it's pretty much been on target as far as that's concerned. But you are right, Tim. Highly fluid. The housing market's on fire in the state, in the country, in New Hartford. So you're right. It doesn't include those kids, the families moving in.
Yeah, I just, again, want to make sure that we're not planning to reduce a teaching position and trying that we can't do that.
Sure.
No, but that's
Just
fine.
to piggyback on that, Brian, like, with that assumption that you just said,
Yeah.
what's the, what's the number, what's the average classroom size with that assumption? Again,
Yeah.
You know, are we at the cusp of needing another section, or are we safely, you know?
We're going to be safe right now, but I mean, if it gets over 20, that's a problem. 19, 20 in kindergarten, that's an issue.
And we've traditionally tried to stay around 20, right?
Yeah.
Students per classroom. And
Yeah.
again, right now, I believe that there are several classrooms that are above that.
Yeah, there's a few, yes.
We need to look at that.
Yeah.
The other one is, the increased responsibilities on the district and the state level. My understanding is the state isn't planning to put out any new mandates, right? So if there's things out there that I don't know about, right, again,
Sure.
I get it. I just like to understand what's out there,
Sure, absolutely.
right? There's been a lot of, hardships, with education over the last couple of years with COVID.
Yeah.
So my understanding was they weren't doing anything further, but if they are, we'd like to understand.
Sure.
On the other side of it.
And Tim, one comes to mind is, they're looking at new requirements for reading for next year. And that's not a tremendous hit on the budget, but it's another mandate that's unfunded.
Mhm.
So that comes to mind. But that's kind of been the trend the last several years. But as far as major mandates, that's a big hit in the budget, probably not, but I always like to include it in there. But any additional mandates, I'll absolutely let the board know.
Please.
Sure.
And then the last one is just, when you talk about special education tuition for outplaced and also correct students, just, we'd like to know. I'd like to know the numbers, right, when we talk
Sure.
about the budget. And go
Sure.
through what the numbers are at that time.
Sure. So we have 4 outplacement students right now, and next year we're projected to have 3. But that could always change any time during the year, and that's a tremendous hit in the budget. It's unforeseen, unanticipated, but we did go down 1 student as far as outplacement for next year.
Brian, if I could, I just read something recently in the paper about the state doing like I don't know if it's a hybrid, but a from home. Are you familiar
You
with
talking about remote learning?
the remote learning? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so the state of Connecticut, the Connecticut State Department of Education is looking at a state remote school. I think, Tony, you're alluding to that.
Yeah.
We're still waiting to hear more information. The Commissioner of Education is going to send out as far as standards to the districts. And it looks like individual families will be able to participate, not through the local districts, through the state level. So we'll just wait to hear more information on that. But that's the plan as far as a remote school for learners in the state.
So they would be taking anyone from any district and just join in there?
Yes, yes.
And then what, they're not affiliated with our
That's a good question. We talk about mandates. That's a good question, but we don't have the information from the state about that. It is.
We are.
Ultimately, you think-
'cause that could have some budgetary implications, I would think, right? I mean,
It could, sure, yeah. Any other questions on that, first couple pages? Great, thank you. So I'll move on to the priorities. Ensure that safety and health standards are maintained and enhanced to improve student achievement, so we'll continue to do that. Continue to improve safety measures in schools. Once again, the capital subcommittee and Tim Klebs have been tremendous help in that. Tom and Tony. We'll continue to replace the classroom doors. We've been doing about several doors a year. We'll continue to do that. It's really enhanced the safety measures. And of course, the panic buttons are working very well. The genesis of that was from the capital committee as well. So we'll continue to do that. Provide adequate funding for instructional materials for teachers and students. We'll continue to do that. Content area curricula will continue to be revised. As a curriculum coordinator presented last month, we're very proud that we have our ELA documents for every unit in every grade level, our readers and writers workshop that's online as well. Very important, very proud, and we're working on our illustrative math program documents this year. So we'll have them for next year. So we're very proud of that. Continue to provide funding for transition of students to Bakerville Consolidated, New Hartford, and Antolini School. Kindergarten, as far as information about kindergarten next year, was in the paper, Republican American, Waterbury Republican American, as far as orientation. We had an online orientation or informational session planned today, but that was canceled because of the snow and inclement weather. That'll be rescheduled moving forward. And we'll also have an in-person orientation coming soon. So, but that process has already started for the transition into our school district. Provide adequate funding to support all academic programs and support systems. Continue social emotional program in the district. That's our ruler program. Very successful. We're using that, especially now with a very difficult time over the last couple of years. Our teachers are very involved, engaged. That's being delivered through each classroom teacher and special area teachers. So we're very proud of that. And that program has been very successful the last couple of years. Continue to implement grade level interim assessments over the last several months. We've had the principals, director of student services, the curriculum coordinator present on all of our data. We've had some very good bright spots, and of course, there's certainly areas to improve on. So we'll continue to focus on that. The Smarter Balance assessments, the standardized assessments, will be given this year. They were given last year, and that'll be given to our 3rd through 6th graders in ELA and math and 5th grade science. And we are preparing for those assessments throughout the course of the year. Continue funding for foundations. This is part of a literacy program. We did add the grade there to pre-K to 4. That was the grade 3, so we added a year with that. This is new this year. The next bullet point, integrity, phonemic, phonological awareness curriculum in grades pre-K to 2. So we're very proud of that, adding that this year. That's been very successful. The Aspire program, once again, another part of our literacy program, another addition, tier 3, as far as working with kids with specialized needs there. And that just doesn't have to be identified students, those are non-identified students as well. And continue to implement the math program, as I talked about, illustrative math. We're in our 2nd year of this, and it's been well received. Professional development, this is our first full year as far as mystery science. We did pilot it last year in several grade levels. This has been going very well with all of our students and staff. Continuing collaboration with the regional vertical math committee. This has been on pause during the last couple of years, so we're looking to reinitiate this. And we worked with our Region 7 colleagues as far as those 4 school districts and Heartland, and also Region 7 as far as Northwestern, Middle, and High School. So we're looking to start that hopefully very soon. Talented and Gifted program for grades 4 to 6. That's Mrs. Pfeffer. Does a great job here. And our kids work once a week after school. They're identified through different metrics, different criteria. And Mrs. Pfeffer has been doing a great job with that. The Advanced Manufacturing Program to 5th and 6th graders, partnering with Goodwin University. That has been tremendous. We partner with the professor at Goodwin University, comes with our students. He comes once a month. And that's been working very well. And hopefully we're going to be able to go, our students in that program, going up to Goodwin University this year and work with professors and students across the state. And I'm so proud of this program. It's on the cutting edge. We have the youngest group of learners, and Goodwin University works with about 12 to 15 districts in the state. They do not have any 5th or 6th graders, and our 5th and 6th graders are gaining high school level rigor in these areas, and we're so proud of that in our 5th and 6th graders. And Mrs. Pfeffer, once again, has done a fantastic job. It's run through our media program there, and we continue to invest in that moving forward. Maintain funding to support the arts, music, and physical education programs, which is a big part, the fabric of the culture of our community here. We'll continue to support those programs. Maintain class sizes, which I'll go over next year. So our average class size has not changed, which is 17 in the district. As is alluded to tonight, we have some classes above 20, but 17 is the average, so we're very proud. It's a very good small class sizes for all of our learners. We have the Poet Laureate Project program. Mrs. Hawley, a retired Antolini school teacher, does a fantastic job. Bless you, Carl. So Mrs. Hawley has not done this during COVID. Hopefully we're going to bring this back This is tremendous through all grade levels at Antolini School as far as poetry culminates in a night in the spring, right here in this room, and the students read their poems. It's so beautiful and magnificent. So we hope we'll bring that back next year. I'm very proud and pleased to inform the board that the Unified Sports program has been brought back. That's to Ms. Deb Marciano and Mrs. McLean and Mrs. Shaw have done a fantastic job with that. We brought that back after a respite due to COVID. That's up here at Antolini School. We bring the Oak Hill students here, working through physical education classes, and it's just a wonderful program. Students mixing together, working together, and it benefits everyone. So we brought that back this year. Continued funding for technology projects that I mentioned, funding for cybersecurity prevention. The districts really worked with the town of New Hartford, First Selectman Jerem, as far as trying to develop, being proactive and developing measures, countering cyber bad actors, so to speak. We know that it's never 100% foolproof, but we've done a lot and invested a lot of resources as far as preventing attacks. So just want to inform the board about that. And the last page, as far as we talked about one-to-one devices, we'll continue to invest in that. As it was brought up tonight, remote learning, distance learning. So we know the state is not allowing that, only in very unique circumstances as far as classrooms and specialized circumstances with individual kids this year. I believe Penny asked this question at a previous board meeting. Will it be allowed for snow days next year? And once again, the Commissioner of Education is still working on that. And I don't like to say this until it comes to fruition, but I think that districts will be allowed to use distance learning, that's our term in New Hartford, / remote learning for snow days next year. But we'll see if that happens, if that comes to fruition. Once again, that was not allowed this year because they wanted kids back in school after the last year and a half due to the pandemic. But we'll see about that. Purchase additional Promethean boards we mentioned. Continue painting, that'll be in our capital plan as far as painting. That went very well this past summer. We'll continue to revise the lunch program, Fresh Picks, the second year this year. Continue to instructional improvement as far as readers workshop and writers workshop and math programs. Continue to invest in those programs. Continue to increase classroom libraries for the readers workshop program. Continue to update the 5-year strategic plan. As I mentioned, the last 4 months, we've had school improvement plans, the special education director student services plan, and the curriculum coordinators plan as well. And thank you, was very well received. Also, the curriculum plan was part of Heather Mathis's, the curriculum coordinators plan, the 5-year curriculum development plan, which is a very, very important document, the framework of where we need to go, and where we need to revise as far as all the content areas and the specialized areas. Respond to emergency repairs and maintenance. Once again, we'll continue to work on that. Maintenance and custodial accounts will be replenished every year and continue to enhance the capacity of the district's outreach communication plans. I know it's a lot of information. Does the board have any questions?
Only if you could add a few more.
But
Thank you, Brian. That was very thorough.
thank you.
Appreciate all that detail.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions before you? I'll talk a little bit about what they're trying to say about the budget timeline a little bit later. All right, next on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here? Or someone else wants to get up there and talk? So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any issues with the minutes, with the expenditure report? We have 2 sets of minutes for December 7th and December 16th.
So I don't know how it works, Carl, but can we pull and vote separately the December 16th meetings, please?
Sure. So we will go over this. Which one was it?
December 16th, please. And I don't know how it works again. I guess I can give you my reasoning for doing that. If you need to, I'd just like to vote on them separately if we could.
Sure. I think we can vote on the rest of the consent agenda and then the December 16th.
You can pull the minutes and vote on them separately.
Or make an amendment to the minutes and then vote on it together.
No, just, we'll, instead of approving everything under the consent agenda, I'll just write in the minutes that Tim has to have those minutes pulled, and you can vote on the expenditure report first.
Without the December
And,
7th.
and then we can make the changes if he has changes to be made or
Okay,
comments.
so we'll do that. So let's vote on the expenditure report, then we'll go over. the 2 minutes we reviewed.
Thank you.
Have a motion on approval of the expenditure report.
I'll motion.
Buck, any second?
Also good.
All in favor? You agree? Did you? Thanks. All right, so the minutes, what do we got?
Do you have something on the 7th minutes or not?
I'm good with the 7 minutes, and I don't have anything formal on the 16th, change-wise. Again, my comment to this is on the December 16th minutes, I can't support the line of questioning that happened. Again, I appreciate the interview process. I think it went very well. I can't support the questions that were asked of each of the candidates during that meeting. In my opinion, they were pointed, debatable questions, and not something that, was asked about the person or each of the candidates about their role on the board, what they knew about the board, how they were going to act on the board. Again, that's basically where I stand. So
I'm not following.
the line of questioning was pointed, debatable topics, right? And again,
Said what?
masks, closing Bakerville School, right? Not about the children and what we're here for.
I actually disagree with you, because I actually think all the questions came from the case questions. A lot of them that asked, they were all case questions.
Closing Bakerville School was a CAPE question. Whether you supported masks
Somebody
was a.
referred to that, but
Well,
We
just
should-
vote against it.
We should go back.
We'll pass
Yeah.
it without you.
You could, yeah, pass it without me.
That's-
I didn't
discuss.
understand.
I understand the point.
Yep.
But at the same time, I mean, I agree that we are student related to some degree, but what's your objection to?
CAPE had a line of questioning that was all about generally why you wanted to be on the board, right? Why you wanted to be on the board, what you knew about the board, how you acted, how you act as a board member. There was a whole line of questioning. And in my opinion, right, as I sat there and we went through the interview process and we asked every candidate the same question, and this isn't about the candidate selected, right? Again, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the line of questioning about debatable questions that were asked instead of asking questions about how they would best serve the board. All right? My opinion.
Do you think that was about the wording of the questions? Because you're right, we didn't.
No, there were questions he specifically asked about closing a Bakerville school. There were specific questions about their opinion on masks, right? And again, this isn't about anything. This is about the questions that were asked. If the questions were about their knowledge of being on the board, their motivation to be on the board, right? All the CAPE questions that were laid out there, right? And there were plenty of those questions asked. However, there were specific questions that were debatable topics, depending on which side of the spectrum you stood on. And I don't think that was proper, my opinion. Right?
But at the same time, those are issues that we face as a board.
We could face an issue a month from now that we don't know about today, right? Right? But we're not asking about that. All right? True.
I just think that the math topic has been the hottest topic of it has been at the forefront of all of our meetings. Of course, we're going to ask that question. Of course, that's going to come up. And you had a person who was running for, as some remind you, one of the people who was running for the board in opposition about that, I think that's gonna draw a little bit of, uncertainty for board members. I mean, it did for me, of course I'm gonna ask him where he stands on that. And, I don't want to put someone on this board, and have yet another person that's going to bring up this topic and get our focus away from the kids and away from education, because that's what's been happening. So I think more than anything, that is absolutely a topic that, or a line of questioning that should have come into play during that.
So can we,
process.
let's
Yeah,
not go
and
backwards.
I would definitely agree with you, right? So the questions that were asked were about aligning with your opinions instead of who was the best person, right? Whoever that might be, the questions that were asked is my problem, right? Not who was selected, not the person that was in front of us.
Did you get
Questions
your
were asked
question
to
answered,
align with your specific and your personal opinions as a board member. That's where I have a problem with questions.
No, actually, I think that the questions that were asked, when it comes to math, or when it comes to board policy, this is a board policy. Like, there isn't any negotiating, and I think that what somebody new coming onto the board, I'm going to use Tim Russell, because Tim Russell, I don't think he understood or even realized, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, I don't know, but that ship has sailed. We already voted on that. That is something that isn't negotiable. It's not something.
So why are we rehashing it right now? Let's vote on these things and move on, please.
And I understand what your points of, we're just talking about.
This shouldn't be debating mass. Again, that's not my point. That's not the reason I brought this up. I brought up the line of questioning was specific to topics instead of generally what people knew about the board and why they wanted to serve on the board.
Did you have questions that you asked, Tim?
I did.
Did you get them answered?
I did.
Okay. Everybody had
I
the
thought it
right
was
to
well
ask their own
rounded. I thought there
questions.
was a little bit of everything, so that's just, I thought it was, everybody.
You can all have your opinion. That's why I'm asking to have them pulled, because I don't agree with the line of questioning. That's the way I started it. You can all have your opinions. You can all have your place here, right?
All right, I have to make a point of order. I thought when you wanted the minutes pulled is because there was something in the minutes that was written wrong and you wanted changed. We don't pull the minutes to debate. We should not be pulling the minutes to debate the questions that were asked at the interview process.
They're not in the minutes.
And it's not in the minutes.
They're in the YouTube video, Penny, and I asked, because I don't know how it worked, and you said if there were changes or comments on the minutes, we can make the comment. That's my comment on the
We're
minutes.
not changing the minutes.
I'm not changing the minutes. I'm asking. Thank you.
But instead of me trying to listen to what everybody said and how they responded and possibly getting something
I get
wrong,
it. I get it.
that's why I put it in the YouTube link.
I'm not asking anybody to change the minutes or do anything else. I'm just asking again. That's why I brought up, I don't know what the right thing to do is.
Okay.
It's either you motion the consent agenda and I vote against it, or I can approve the December 7th minutes. I don't feel that I necessarily want to approve the December 16th.
Then you can always object to them. But
Exactly.
when
That's
you
why I
make-
asked them to be separated.
Okay, so when you make a motion to approve X, Y, Z, and then there's a second, and then there's discussion before the vote.
Okay.
Sure.
And that's when,
Okay.
that's when all this whole thing about the questions and not being the right questions to ask should have been brought up.
Okay.
But going forward, what I would like to see this board do, I'm tired of hearing about masks. I'm tired of having to remind people to please wear a mask and to cover their mouth and their nose and everything else. This board used to be nice. We all used to get along until this mask business started.
Believe me, Penny, I didn't bring this up to bring the mask mandate back to the table. I did not. That wasn't the point of me.
Well, I'm
Right.
tired of debating the masks. I want
The
it to
mask
stop.
thing is done. The mask thing is done. Look at this all. The mask thing is
We're
done, right? The mask thing is
No,
done.
it's actually not.
So what are we doing?
But
Voting
and
on
I don't
these?
want to get into it. I also think if you're going to be on this board, you should also be present unless you're really sick or have a good reason for not being here.
Well,
You were
let's-
elected
let's
to
get-
serve this board and to be here, and you should be here.
I mean, let's-
And that's all I'm saying.
Let's stay with where we are. Point duly noted, you know, I don't know, I see your point, I see both sides of it.
Well, my point is I want to separate them if you want me to vote on it. If you want to put them both to vote, then put them both to vote. That's why I asked the question. I
Well,
don't
we
know.
can do them separate.
I just have to say this, I do appreciate the conversation, because one thing that's happened, you know, over the years on the board is, you know, someone will vote against something and we don't know why. So I really want people.
And that's why
to
I bring
speak
it,
up and-
that's why I bring it up. Again, I appreciated the interview process. I thought it was great, right? I just, the line of questioning that came out of that bothered me. At the end of the day, me personally, when I walked away, it bothered me that we didn't, we asked plenty of questions, right? Just, it, to me, wasn't the right thing to do, right? Wouldn't have changed the outcome. It wasn't.
All right.
You need a motion for the December 7th.
And the December 16th.
Why don't we keep them separate?
Separate, okay. We have a motion for approval of the December 7th.
So moved.
Clerks, second.
Go for it, Mary.
Mary? All in favor?
Am I allowed to vote on that since I wasn't actually, so I
You can
just
abstain.
abstained from those votes?
Okay. Deirdre, did you vote yes? We're just voting to approve the minutes from December 7th. The discussion was around the questions that we had during the interview process. And Tim was making the point that some of them are very pointed and kind of particularly around Bakerville School and masks rather than more general. They were too specific. Okay.
He's got it.
Public comment.
So, all in favor, we have everyone except
Okay.
Travis and Deirdre. Did you vote in favor? All right. All opposed? Abstentions? Travis?
No, I can't vote on this because I wasn't actually
You
a member at that time.
That's
Yes. I abstained.
Travis.
So everyone else said yes on the 7th minute?
Correct. All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes for December 2nd?
So moved.
Second.
Mary second.
Mary, did you second?
Yeah.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? And abstained?
I abstained.
Deirdre, I'm sorry, I didn't see what you, I didn't see if you can raise your hand.
She has to abstain too, right?
You're abstaining? Your mic is not on. Okay, Deirdre. So the motion passes. Thank you. All right,
So did you say anything about public comment or communication? Do we have any letters?
Oh, I'm sorry, we did not have a communication. Unless you have the,
I do not. And then, no one's here for public comment, correct?
correct. Moving on to reports. We have a second read on 4 policies and a first read on 3. So I'll ask Kelly to go through those. Yeah, let's do this.
Yep. I'm just gonna go through these quickly because we started late, had late. P 5113.2A, I'll let you guys read through that.
I'm sorry, which one are we on?
P 5113.2A.
Okay.
Attendance, excused absences. health wellness statement. Yep. And then, that on D, we took out that paragraph where, second to last paragraph on that page, in the calculation of the district, all that, that whole paragraph was taken out. Yep. I would really raise that, as well. Okay. Everybody good with that one? B5144.2A, students' use of exclusionary timeout settings. The one thing we didn't do on the first read the last time, we were supposed to choose between the two paragraphs, separated by that word or. So tonight, we picked the first paragraph. If you read both of those paragraphs, we agreed, as a committee, that we liked the wording of the first paragraph over the second. Gives you a little more wiggle room and being able to use how much of it. Yeah, it's, yeah, the second part is the same,
Right.
That's always, that's not always. Don't have a thing, but do that right now. There's that, and then. That was it. Everything's the same from the last one. The next one, P3542.41. Last time we had taken out, on the second paragraph, on that first page, on the second paragraph down, we had taken out, after superintendent, business manager, finance, assistant superintendent. We removed all that. So it was responsible to be superintendent. Then, that's it on that one. And then P1110.1. We didn't have any changes on that at all. Still the same. And that had to do with communications with the public, parental involvement.
Kelly, when you say they're all the same, the red text means what?
The red is the,
The addition.
that's the addition that Kate put in there.
Okay.
And then anything that we changed at the last meeting, gets added in there after.
Okay. So the policy in black is the policy as it stood.
Right.
The red is what Kate is adding.
Correct.
And you're highlighting changes that the committee made.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank
Yes.
Any questions on those? Should we have a motion now to approve these and final reading?
Can we do all of them together?
You want to do all the rest?
No, can we do all four of them together?
Yes, you could, yes.
You can?
Okay. So Mary just raised her hand, so I guess she made it.
Well, you gotta say it out loud. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve
The first four
the
there.
first four policies.
Any second?
A second.
Is that Tony?
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. All right, thanks, Kelly.
All right, so now the first read on the next step. So it's policy 6159. Individualized education program, special education program. And whenever you hear the term IEP, that's what they're referring to, the individualized education program. There were no changes on this one. I'll just like let you read through that a little bit. And again, any changes made by Kate in red.
What language replacement? Other language or just an addition?
Sometimes could be a little of both,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
I'm just reading that first one.
where?
On B, over three coordinator of qualification. That whole paragraph is similar to, I'm understanding, to the previous paragraph.
To any member? Very clear.
Any member of the CDC,
Any member of
appointment
the.
board of
Right.
Oh, that's recommendation. I guess the next one is discussion.
And they're talking about somebody who, a birth district coordinator, and they didn't even mention the birth district street
Right,
coordinator.
oh, you're right, okay.
Birth district street coordinator is different from.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, is it on that, everything? A lot to read.
It's a good topic. Discuss on that one. Yep.
Okay. All right, so P5113A. has to do with attendance, excuses, and dismissal. About absenteeism, that one change we made on D, page B, as we just talked about, K through 12 and maybe K6.
Is this a new policy?
Yes,
So it doesn't have the red.
they must not have been.
Is it a new policy for Hartford?
What's that?
It's a new policy for Hartford.
Yes.
It is a new policy.
So it's being adopted,
Yes.
being asked to be adopted.
Yeah.
Five one one three.
Oh my God.
So you're trying to define how it counts to be.
Oh, you got the, that's for the other one. Here, look at that.
Never mind, I got Brian's.
Okay,
Thank you.
for this one.
Okay, got it.
Got it? Everybody good? Okay.
So actually, I just have a quick question. When someone chooses to homeschool their child, I mean, what is that? They have to still go through this, a state board or some sort of
No.
panel or something, or?
Not in
The,
Connecticut, right?
So they just keep them out of school?
The homeschool is totally disassociated from the school district, so it plays no part as far as attendance whatsoever, as far as attendance data.
Your question is more, do they have to comply with the state?
No,
Yeah.
no, they don't have to comply, no.
So how is it that the state can hold like a parent or guardian responsible for, you know, abiding by this rule? Whereas someone decides to homeschool their kid, they have no jurisdiction.
That's right, just different requirements. If you're part of a public school system and you're not, as far as being homeschooled.
So in other words, if you're registered, okay.
Any other questions?
Okay. P5131.911, okay, all about bullying prevention and intervention. And the big change was on, in D. Parent must be on committee. And then two of the things that we changed were, the year.
Sure. Sure.
One of the changes that we made was 2020, it's supposed to be 2021, it says 2012 for the year. And then we took out, in the second paragraph that's highlighted in red, where it says mental health personnel assigned to such school, there should be a period there, and then we're gonna put, we crossed out and see at the high school level, at least one student enrolled at the school. We took that whole rest of that sentence out. So it's after assigned to such school, period. And then from and through school. You got that? That's it. That's it.
So you don't need a motion on that, right? Which we,
That's right.
great, thank you. for that subject. All right, new business. We had new board member orientation on January 10th for Deirdre and Travis. I thought it went really well. It was a good conversation. We went over basically our roles and responsibilities on the board. Brian, thank you, Brian, so much for putting together, and your staff putting together all the materials for Deirdre and Travis. There's a lot in there. A lot to review, as you guys know. We want a cake material. We talked about handling citizen concerns, complaints, how those are addressed, communication and school visits. It was a good conversation. We talked about how the board meetings take place, different processes there. We talked about the district plan a bit, our goals as a district, ran through that. And we just talked about the administrative structure of the district. So I thought that was really great. It was good to get through, go through details. It's always good to remember why we're here and how we're structured. So I just want to let you know. Any questions on that? All right. Secondly is Board of Ed committee assignments. And I made sure I emailed all of you before the meeting today. But I wanted to share the paper, the committee assignments. Everyone kind of knows what they're on. But just so you have it. Brian, I don't know if you want a copy of this for,
Yes, please, Carl.
I can want to just email it to you.
Yes, please. Thanks, Carl.
Sure. So here's all the subcommittee appointments. On long-range planning, Tim Kleps will chair with Deirdre and Travis as of the other members. Negotiations and personnel, Penny will chair with Tony and Mary. Plant facility and transportation, no changes there. Tom will chair with Kim and Tony. School community relations and policy, Mary's going to chair that with Kelly and Penny. Student health and wellness will be Kelly's chair with Mary and Deirdre. And then community outreach is Tom chairing with Kim and Travis. And Deirdre, I can send you, I'll email you a copy of this so you have it. So thank you, everybody, for sending me your requests. I know it's not perfect with what you asked for, but I tried to make it as close to match as possible. So I got them pretty close. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, any questions on that before we go on to the budget timeline? So thank you, Brian, for going through the overview of the budget. Over the next few meetings, that's our next meeting, on the calendar here somewhere, is February 1st. So we'll have a sort of a compressed schedule of our meetings to line up with the budget timeline. We have the next meeting is February 1st and February 15th. So as far as the Board of Finance is concerned, we have a regular meeting on March 8th, where we will go over the capital expenditure budgets. So Brian and I will have that meeting on March 8th. I encourage everyone to make it to go. We'll review both the Board of Ed and the Town of Hartford capital expenditures. On March 12th, which is the Saturday meeting, that's where the budgets are presented by all the schools, the Board of Finance. So Region 7 will be there. We'll be there. And town budgets presented that day as well. And I'm not sure what time, did you set a time yet, Brian?
They have not, but March 12th in the morning, starts 8:30.
Yes, so there's one, they have it on their schedule here, it's, one is at 8 o'clock, one's at 9:30, and the third is at 10:30. So we'll figure out the time slot we have on that day. So that's the big presentation. Then the Board of Finance has a meeting the week after that, on the 22nd of March, to change or adopt the budget. So that's when changes could be made on that date. And then April 5th is the public hearing. That'll take place at the senior center. And I'll talk about that next to do a conflict on that date. For our meeting date. And then on the April 12th meeting, the Board of Finance will discuss potential changes to the budget at the public hearing, basically. And then on April 19th, we'll have the final annual budget meeting, followed by another town meeting. And then May 3rd is the actual referendum.
Carl?
Sure.
At the last meeting, they said that 8 o'clock is Judy, 9 o'clock is you and Brian,
Hopefully.
and then Dan follows at 10:30. You're welcome.
So 9:30.
At night.
9,
9?
they're giving you an hour and a half in case there's any questions.
Oh boy, hot seat.
Yes,
You got the extra half.
So Carl, which meeting do we need to approve the budget by?
So, that's a good question, Tony. So, and we'll, in the February 1st meeting, Brian's gonna go through line by line, present the whole budget to us, right? So that'll be our next meeting. That'll be more of a presentation. You can ask questions, but Brian, correct me if I'm wrong for that. But that'll be more of just a presentation. We can take notes. It's our first time seeing the budget. As Brian goes through it, we can, look at what we might have for questions. We can actually ask some questions, maybe Brian needs to look into at that meeting as well. Then on February 15th is the one where we really go through line by line as a team to ask questions. And, Brian has the follow-ups to the person who will answer those questions. So that's the one where we really go into the detail on that 15th.
So hopefully by that first one in March, we approve it.
Correct. I mean, historically, we could approve it on the 15th, but that's been done before, that sort of time frame. But the March 1st meeting is there as well. It depends on, how many questions we have, how much back and forth we have.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Brian, is that a good synopsis?
Yes, good summation, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions on the budget timeline? And I could, thank you, Kenny, for sending the Board of Finance budget timeline. I have it in email, but if anyone wants to copy that. Just forward it to them. Great. Last but not least, as I mentioned, our April 5th meeting, which is we have a conflict on that day. That's the day that the public hearing takes place for the budget. It's a special Board of Finance meeting. So due to that conflict, I wanted to propose that we change our meeting date to either, we could do any date that week, but I was just looking at the town calendar. The best date is probably Wednesday, April 6th, or Thursday, April 7th. It didn't look like there was any conflict.
So Carl, I'm unavailable those days.
Oh, you
I'm at a
are?
conference, yes.
Okay.
Is it possible to go to the next week?
We could.
How's the Wednesday, the 13th? Is that possible?
Wait, what day do you change?
We're changing
The
the April 5th meeting
Okay,
the Wednesday the 13th.
Yes,
April 13th.
is that possible?
Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
7 o'clock, good?
Yep.
Brian, do you need a motion on that, or?
Yeah, we'll take a motion for that, please, yes.
All right, can I have a motion to change the scheduled April 5th, 2022 Board of Ed meeting to April 13th?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Mary? Any discussion? Everyone's good? Okay.
It's gonna be tight for me, but I should. Yeah, I've got something in Shelton until 5. And hold it, it's over by 5 will be. Fine. That's no matter, it's on time. Nothing ever, it's on time. But I'll call him from Friday, but.
All right, any other discussion? Nope. All in favor? That's good. You good? You good? Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? That's all we're done.
Sure, at 8:23. Second.
Mary?
I think mine are all down here.
Thank you, Deirdre. Have a good night. Brian, want to text something?
Yep.
Close it out. All right.
We're all done.